Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Gary. Just for those who don't know me, I look after the global financial services solutions practice for Alibaba Cloud International. It's great to have everyone here. I think, like Kun have mentioned, I think last year I was here as well in a similar setting where I facilitated the Malaysia panel. So today I think it's fantastic with some new and old friends on the stage. So let's get straight into it. So today we're going to touch on AI for tomorrow's digital banking experience. So we have representation from solution providers. We have representations from the industry themselves and also from an academia perspective. So it's going to be a very diverse, hopefully a very candid type of discussion. So I have asked the panelists to be as transparent, right, and share as much as you can. And even on, I think on the topic of AI in banking, to be honest, I think even though the topic talked about tomorrow, I firmly believe that it is actually today. But I think tomorrow, or what excites us about tomorrow is what can we actually do with AI and how far can we go in an industry where, you know, I came from banking, where I was taught, right, when I was in the banking days, it's always about asking the compliance team whether we can do it. So later on, we'll hear a bit from the panelists as to what are some of the things that they're doing right now, what are some of the challenges, and what are some of the practical advices that we can get when it comes to implementation, right? Because I think at the end of the day, AI, you have to make it useful, right? It has to deliver value, not just, you know, research. Yeah, we need to do the research and development, there's no doubt about it, but it's about how do we actually help everyone in the room here, when you get back to your everyday role, be able to push that agenda, right? Start to challenge yourself, challenge your team members, and challenge your stakeholders. All right, so question one. I'm going to first direct to, well, actually both Dr. Huang and Dr. Wang, right? So the first question is maybe from Dr. Weiwei. So how has AI actually enhanced from a customer engagement perspective and actually transforming some of the customer interactions, or even when it comes to like customer servicing?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for actually picking me as the first speaker. Yeah, and it's an honor. So I think everybody right now is talking about the AI, and yeah, I think it's everywhere, and definitely means actually it affects our every space and industry, particularly for example like customer engagement. So based on I think my understanding is the affections maybe in the 3 domains. For example, like more personalization, and the second is more like the streamliness, which means like to bring a smooth transaction, because most of the case there's a lot of like complex multi-steps workflows, and this AI will help us to the streamliness of these things, and the last will be the efficiency. I think it's the most important is the efficiency. So in the old days, like AIs, we have, for example, like most people might be familiar, like chatbot, they can help us like 24/7 hours. And also with a lot of like data, like AI will help us to like the customer behavior and the characteristic analyze to have a more personalized. So at sixth state, we also like to use large language model based on the AIs to do all this, like to streamline the document processing. So it not only like faster in the speed, but also we trying to reduce the friction, because the key thing I think is there are a lot of the steps in the, for example, customer engagement, and in this case the multiple steps will be a lot of the conflicts, and with the help of the AI we can make this connections very smooth and become a one-stop solutions. And it can be indicate, for example, in a banking system, we have like the loan applications and also like trade finance and also even the KYB, KYC, or these kinds of process. I think all this will help in these domains. And it can, I think, enhance the satisfaction of the customer feelings. So in the first way is it will, because of this, reduce the time steps, it will cut the efficiency, so reduce the time for making the decision. And of course, the second, it will increase the productivities. I think this tool will help us for the engagement.
So quite a lot of focus will be on the operational efficiency, it's the streamlining of the processes. Maybe we'll hear from Dr. Wang.
Thank you so much, Gary. And before I answer this question, I'd like to thank the organizer that giving me the chance to come here. And I'm also from Singapore, and I am the head of program of Singapore University of Social Sciences. And my background is from economics and marketing. So I'd like to maybe tackle this question more from the marketing perspective. And also, like, I'm very thrilled to be here because I'm also an AI enthusiast. And I'm I'm very inspired by Dr. Wang Jian's deep time, Earth. And Gary also mentioned this notion of future and the present, right? So I think that we're at a very important stage in the history. This time, like AI compressed the past and the present and the future into this point. And we can have a lot of imagination about what future is going to be like. And about this question itself, about the consumer engagement, I think that it definitely changes a lot how the financial industry is performing. And from the consumer perspective, right, so we can have a tiered class of services. So previously, some people are exclusive from the financial industry service, and some of the people are like us, like mass consumers in the market, and we do not have enough tension from the financial industry because they pay more attention to this, high net worth consumers and so on, right? But for now, these mass market consumers and also these those underserved, parties in this world can get better services from the robot advisor, for example, and from the chatbot, and the bank can reserve more resources for these high net worth consumers, but they can save a lot of money by using these automated kind of chat functions to serve these mass market, but still provide an even better and more engaged services. So I think that's one of the most important part I want to emphasize on. Yeah.
Thank you. So if we were to just to do a quick recap here, right? So I think based on both panelists, I think one of the common themes that's coming out is really around how do you make use of AI when it comes to delivering a hyper-personalized experience, which previously, without the use of AI, it's still feasible, right? It's not like we don't do it. It's not like the banks don't segment you, right? They will try to segment you based on who you are, how much you make, where you live. But previously, it's probably a lot more manual intensive. It's a lot messier because the quality of data is not fantastic. Right? But I think with the use of AI, a lot of that, back to Dr. Weiwei's comment around streamlining, right? So it's making it easier for you to do what you were doing before, what the banks were doing before, but in a much more cost-efficient and also likely to be less risky because you've got actually systems driving the personalization. Now on that topic, of course, now I'll swing to Geh Yang here from a banking perspective then. From your point of view as the group head of digital, from your perspective, what does digital banking experience actually look like if you were looking at it from today's point of view, how we define digital versus a bit about how you foresee with the use of AI is going to change that, if any?
First thing, thank you, Gary, and good afternoon, everyone. I think probably I'll break these questions down into four particular segments. I think the first one I want to talk about is actually on onboarding. I think nowadays almost everyone can open an account through eKYC. You just switch off your phone, you take your IC, do a little bit of shaking with the hands, blink your eyes, you can actually open an account. So versus 10 years ago, I think this is really non-existent. So I think this is now. So Gary, you asked about the future. I think future is going to be a little bit more dicey. Why I say that? Because what I've learned today, the first industry that Gen AI has actually created is this thing called deepfake. So it might not be a good news to a banking industries want to onboard customers, open accounts seamlessly. So I think the jury is still out there. It looks like there's going to be a black hat, white hat kind of fight. The deepfake guys are trying to fight with the anti-deepfake guys. So hopefully the anti-deepfakes guy is going to win, then our life will be much easier. So I think that's actually on onboarding. On transacting, I think almost every one of us hardly go to a bank branch nowadays. It's very useful now. You just pick out your phone, you transact actually online. Behind the scene, actually, you don't know. Sometimes you get a personalized offer. It's actually the banks, the staff has actually done some sort of machine learning at the back end. So they kind of segregate you, segmentize you, do some sort of programming. I think that's been happening today. What we haven't seen yet is that personalization to a real-time kind of scenario. So imagine you take step 1, step 2, you don't take step 3, it's going to ping you on a different mode. I think that's the one that we haven't seen. So hopefully one day it will come. And then that would make the engagement with the banking app a lot more interesting. Because I think compared to the e-com app, it's still a little bit on the downside. You want to just do your transaction very quickly, close it off, and then go to online shopping again. Right, to the distress of your husband for the wives here, right? So that's actually on transacting. I think the third one would be more interesting because you see banks, the traditional business is actually on financing. I think today applying for personal loans is relatively easy. At the back end, there's machine learning, pulling your bureau, pulling your income documents, know how much you earn, and then underwrite a loan. But I think what we haven't seen is actually on complex financing like mortgages. So those are the ones that AI has still not got to the extent where you can apply for a housing loan, get approved within minutes online. So I think that's where things still need to work on. The last area I just want to touch very quickly is on advising. So probably a lot of you wouldn't be aware. Actually, banks make a lot of money from wealth advisory. So that bit of the business, most of it is done by personal selling. So your RMs come to you and then talk to you. You have $500,000 in your bank account. You want to buy a unit trust. You want to buy bank assurance, you want to change FX currencies, and then that's where the conversation goes on, right? So we hope one day Gen AI is going to play a role there, and this will make, I think, the banking interaction with customers a lot more interesting than it is today.
Yeah. No, thank you. And just on the last point, ever since I joined a bank, right, I've always been taught that fees business is the best business because it's low risk, it's high in margin. So banks love fees, right? So, but interestingly, if you look at why digital banking has been launched, right? If you look at the different licenses that's been launched in Malaysia, Indonesia, Hong Kong, Singapore, actually a key motivation of regulators is about what Dr. Wang Yue talked about, is the inclusion, right? And what does inclusion mean? It means everyone has a fair go at affordable financial services, right? And I think that could be also part of what actually AI could help us as both the institutions and solution providers can help to achieve. Now, in the related question, maybe I'll start with actually back to Geh Yang and then Dr. Huang, is you've touched on a little bit about the potential on disruptions, right? But can we go a bit deeper into what are the challenges, right, especially from a banking perspective, that if we were to achieve the vision that you just mentioned then, what are some of the key hurdles that you yourselves have currently experienced or that you can foresee that it's going to come through?
Right. I think probably the first thing I want to address is the industry by itself. For those of you who may be not having some participation in the financial services industries, actually banks make a lot of margins. And I hope that won't be surprising to you. If you take a look into the Forbes, the job salary list, bankers are always near the top. Actually, we make a lot of margins. I think one of the attractions or negative attractions because of that, the fintech players also smell the same. So what they figure out, if I can go to the bank, I can take 0.5% off their 1%, I make 50% of the money. And that's a lot of money sitting there. So I think that's where a lot of fintech players are coming to disrupt the banks in a way. And the other thing, I think, like it or not, I still remember 20, 30 years ago, my mom brought me to a banking hall. I was sitting there, I was impressed. There's a lot of white collars with neckties, people walking around. That's how bankers were, because you go to a bank, you want to apply for a loan, you go to them. They don't come and look for you. It's a very different kind of business because for them, compliance comes first, like what you were saying, customers comes the second. Now I think the bankers need to think very hard. They have to put customers first and then how to negotiate with the compliance side. So I think as a result for that, I put that as the first challenges that a lot of bankers are facing. You want to do what is right for customers, but you also watch at your back by the regulators. I think that's one of the challenges. I think the other challenge that banking CEOs would face is actually margin compression. Like what I said, if I make 1%, if the fintech player is going to steal half of my percent, suddenly my revenue down 50%. And for a banking CEO, it's a nightmare because there's no way you can grow your business in 1 year to catch up that 50%. So how to balance that act, how to drive some innovation out of it, I think is the biggest challenge for all the bank CEOs.
Got it. And Dr. Huang?
Okay, thank you. So because I am from the higher education sector, so I would like to talk more about the talents in the education perspective. So it's actually not only restricted to finance industry, but also a lot of other industries as well. Because of this disruptive technology, we do see some mismatch in the labor market. Like we are seeing two scenarios at the same time. One scenario is that a lot of big companies, including the financial institutions, they are laying off staff. So people are losing jobs. And on the other hand, we also see that they are short of talents who can, who are equipped with the relevant skills for the future, like the AI literacy, the mindset for, incorporating AI into the workflow. And also like maybe in terms of financial industry, we want the talents who have the understanding of the finance industry as well as the technology perspective. So these kind of people, we are kind of in short of. So that's, I think that maybe we can have this kind of ecosystem, like including Alibaba Cloud Academy and our like education institutions, and also these financial industry, players. We can come together to develop good programs to cultivate the, talents for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the people talent is definitely an issue, right? Because I think, and one of the key challenges, just coming from our own perspective, is when we work with our own HR team, we often, because everything is so new, right? So you have to write a job description. So you're literally defining what the job description actually looks like, because there's not really a lot of historic references that you can go with. What is a AI full stack engineer, right? What should it have? How many years, right? Just to give you some perspective, I recently wrote a JD, and in there I had to put 8 years of relevant cloud experience. And it's very interesting because I myself don't have 8 years worth of experience, right? And you look at the whole industry, you're talking about 15 to 16 years, max. So how do you balance the traditional way of hiring versus what are now, we always talk about, certain universities, certain degrees, certain standards, but this industry is so new. Who is defining the standards, right? So I welcome all of you, right, to also look in, when you're looking for talent, it's got to be right for what you're looking to achieve, as opposed to taking very traditional, let's call it legacy measures, right? AI or not. And really looking at who are that true talent and whether you have the bandwidth to actually groom this talent, right? Because I think everyone is learning right now, everything is so new.
If you find that 8 years, send them to me.
Yeah, maybe add on to that. So I think some of the key skills we're looking at for the future are actually also reshaping. Like previously, we may look at some, probably pay attention to the details, like they can do some automated works very well. But later on, we are more focusing on these like critical thinking skills, analytical skills, creative thinking, and also maybe efficacy, that how motivated they want to be equipped with the new skills. So absolutely. Yes, maybe these are some of the perspectives we can look at. Yeah, and also from the university perspective, we are also like constantly thinking about what kind of program we should design. And then we should, have to cultivate these multidisciplinary talents who are equipped with both the technology skills and as well as the, finance, marketing, context-related details. Yeah.
Thank you. So from challenges, now let's sort of move ahead to now, let's talk about growth, right? Because challenges, not so exciting. Growth is much more exciting, right? So, so Darwin, talk about Gen AI a lot. So from your perspective, how can Gen AI help to uncover some of that growth opportunities for banks or financial institutions through data-driven innovation? And I'll also ask Dr. Weiwei to pitch in as well.
Okay, thank you, Gary. So my background's in engineering, so my perspective is going to be more from the technical side. So the way I see it, if you look at the industries right now that are most heavily doing machine learning or basically traditional AI, it would be in the financial or banking sectors already. If you look at what they have, they're processing numerical data, structured data. And that is why before Gen AI, there's a massive push towards internet IoT, things that collect as much data, big data. What Gen AI opens up is an ability to take unstructured data, like documents and stuff, and turn it into data that can actually take advantage of the traditional machine learning stack, right? So when we think of Gen AI as sort of an interface where it can interface with the customer, that is just on the that's on the surface side. But on the back end, Gen AI unlocks a whole new data set for banks' existing systems to process. So it's almost a force multiplier. Not only can you interact with the customers better because you have a more natural interaction through large language models, but the large language models also provide the data that the existing systems could get the banks to know the customer even better. So from both the front and the back, it is going to open up a lot more personalization and streamlining to the bank's processes.
Yeah, I think I cannot agree more for the Darwin's. I think we have done some research about the data, particularly from unstructured data to structured data. So in the beginning, actually 60% of the data, because of this, cannot be like from unstructured data, cannot be used by the bank. Actually, this data kinds of waste, it just living there. So with the technology of the general AI, actually now we have the capability of converting all these kinds of data be more useful, and actually we can dig more value about this data. And then again, I think because we have a lot of these kinds of data, for example, like business transaction, all these kinds of things, that's why I think I agree, like it will become more personalized. I hope, I think your concern about whether this can be like the more personalized of the service, for example, like the loan application, even other kinds of customer service. I think with all this data's help, I think definitely it can. And I think besides of the data, not only the data, but also in terms of like efficiency, because as the Gen AI, it helps us to process all this of the information can be a whole string, and because previously we have maybe, I think, still like multiple steps as I streamlines, but it combines everything together. It will fasten the process. Previously, for example, like a couple of days and several weeks, tasks maybe like only like half an hour or even minutes. So basically, in this case, it will fasten the decision speed, fasten the process speed. And at this point, I think with this technology, it will not, for example, like grab the profits of the bank, but actually I think we are growth together. So it's like we from one we are going to two instead of like 0.5, 0.5. I think I think it's more than 2. So I think we are like can even enlarge of these kinds of business, and in terms, for example, particularly I think for digital banking, because previously there is no for them they have no like the operation or it's huge teams. They have like the burden is not so heavy, and in this case they are keen to enlarge the performance and, for example, the loan books, for example, and but without increase the people. And in this case, and with this kind of technology, I think Destiny will be helpful. And we have seen all these kinds of situations in multiple locations.
So it does sound like that. I think a lot of the growth opportunity is going to come with the way that is changing the way that we're working with the data, right? So basically the way we look at data, the way we can derive value from the data to drive even, I think we mentioned a few things about that recurring theme of personalization and also the streamlining of the business operations.
Can I
sorry,
can I
please.
So earlier, Dr. Huang mentioned that there's also an operational side. And I think this is something that is often missed when we talk about Gen AI, because when we think of Gen AI, we think interaction with the end user. But if you look at operationally, just in our day-to-day offices, there's a lot of people using ChatGPT to do little things. And if you think of that, let's say it saves a couple minutes from an employee's workday. It might not feel like something where it's disruptive, where you have double-digit growth or productivity. But if you scale across the entire organization, if it saves a couple percentages from every person's day, makes everybody a little more productive, I think that ends up being a massive efficiency boost. It makes the operation itself much more smooth. So in addition to better experiences, customization, I think improving efficiency in the operation itself, that is something that we should not ignore with Gen AI.
So Darwin, just on that note then, governance, right? FSI is all about governance. So how should the audience here go about it, right? When it comes to engaging with, say, their key executive stakeholders, is there a playbook, given that this is so new, that we can follow, so that whatever changes that we're looking at now that are powered by AI can actually be sustainable when it comes to deploying whatever changes that we can foresee?
Okay, I think with AI, especially Gen AI, it is so new. If you look at the forums and booths, you see new models and new technologies being released all the time. So with something that is that fast moving and have such potential large impacts on the organization, I think it cannot just be limited to the CTO or the CIO. This is something that the entire organization, from top to bottom, has to be involved in, especially with privacy and compliance laws, where employees, even though we tell them not to, they will use ChatGPT. There are going to be leaks of company information. So I think there has to be and this is going to be across the entire organization. So it has to be a top to bottom, I guess, like you mentioned, a playbook where everyone understands where the company's going in terms of AI. One of the tricky things is if you look at very large organizations, a lot of times different departments, they bring in their own technology stack. We have sometimes where it's accidentally multi-cloud instead of intentionally multi-cloud. And if the same thing happens with Gen AI, this could get very tricky, right? Where different departments have different policies regarding information. So with such a fast-moving target, this is something that the entire organization, the leadership across the entire organization must come together and have a coherent strategy before actually implementing it.
Thank you. So look, given time, I'm going to collapse the last question so that we can end on a bit of a high, right? So just on the theme here. So and this is open to all of the panel members. So here we have, just on this panel, right, we have banks, fintechs, if I can use the word tech giants, right, to describe Alibaba Cloud. How will our interaction and collaboration evolve along the way? So that in this relatively risk-adverse industry, that the changes that we are looking at to transform can actually be scalable, resilient, and sustainable. Maybe Geh Yang, you can be the first one.
I think probably I'll take a look into this as an ecosystem. So if you studied like an animal kingdom, there's always an ecosystem. different animals or living beings would be constantly competing against each other for resources. But there's also a lot of symbiotic relationship where you can only grow together. And sometimes one would lead to a demise that promotes the growth of another. So I don't have that glass, that globe in front of me to foresee the future. But I think we are still evolving. But whatever it is, the little bit of thing I learned from Charles Darwin is the evolution is meant to be perfectionism one day. So I look at that from that lens. I think I'm still optimistic from this point of view that we're going to be going stronger together. Whether this industry survives or not, I don't think it's a matter, because I can always switch the industry, right?
Dr. Weiwei?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I think I totally agree because the ecosystem is actually interconnected with each other a lot. I think that both parties will be connected with each other and help each other. So in our perspective, like we think like banks more like it's very strong the regulator, always matter experience, and also customer engagement, customer trust, particularly customer trust is very important. And for the fintech company, usually they are very agile and they have the innovation technologies. And then last is like the tech giants, particularly is provided a very strong infrastructure and also scalable AI tools. And this combined together, I think will each other helps. For example, like the bank leverage fintech technology have better customer experience, and then the fintech maybe work together with the banks to provide better also involving more. And at this point, the tech giants is very important. Critical is to have this scalable infrastructure to make both parties and can be extend to a big amount. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Wang?
Okay, so I think I pretty much agree with everyone here, and I actually want to add on to what Darwin mentioned in the last question, but also related to this one. So about the governance, I think it's more than the integration in this whole organization, but also in terms of the society, like all the players should play a part inside. In terms of the governance and all that cooperations, like the governance and university and researchers, lawyers, everyone should come together. And I think the governance issues is more than what we have mentioned. For example, accountability, and then like this ethical issues and so on, right? So alignment as well. So I think in terms of this coordination or competition among the different parties is also a very interesting phenomenon in the future that, of course, to be optimistic, we hope that everyone would be open-minded and cooperate together and have a good alignment with each other. Yeah, we look forward to that.
Great, thank you. And Darwin, take us home.
Okay. I guess on the practical side, there aren't that many groups that have access to GPUs right now. So Ali Cloud, as one of the couple that we can actually do AI work on. But on a more serious note, I think because it's moving so fast, AI, Gen AI, it's so new, it's a moving target. I think, like everyone mentioned here, we do need very tight integration between the end users, the fintech companies, the companies implementing it, as well as the tech giants, right? I think everyone needs to communicate in order to figure out which direction to go. I don't think there's anyone right now that can tell the future, but I think that's why all of us, need to work together on this.
Wonderful. So after the 30 minutes of a very exciting discussion, I think I'll try to shorten it into a 1-minute summary, right? So we hear about a few things today, right? So AI today widely adopted in the banking sector already, but in a more traditional means, right? From a deep learning, machine learning perspective. Gen AI is going to change the way we look at how we process data, how we design our products, how we streamline our processes along that. But with that also comes with how do you provide the governance so that you can actually make it useful within your own organization and also provide the servicing to your customers or to your stakeholders. Last but not least, it's an ecosystem that everyone needs to play their part, no matter you're a solution provider, infrastructure provider, education provider, because all of that, people, data, talent, technology, all needs to be part of the successful ingredient. With that, I would like you to give the panelists a big round of applause for their contribution. And a bit of a shameless plug as well. There is a booth in the Intel booth in Pavilion 2 that has a deepfake display, so you're welcome to go there and take a look at what GY has mentioned around how easy it is to do deepfake, and yet at the same time, there is solutions that can help you to defend. Thank you very much.